Jane Unchained here with my little rat mascot, Rico. And I am so thrilled to have a vegan who knocked it out of the park on Shark Tank, the CEO of Wild Earth Vegan Dog Treats. Ryan, you rocked it. I am so proud of you. Tell us about how you got Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban to invest more than $500,000 into Wild Earth, the vegan dog food.
Yeah, so thanks, Jane, for having me on. I'm really excited to be back on your show. So this is a really exciting moment for me. I think we talked a couple of months back. We were still getting everything up and running. We just started shipping. I wasn't able to say it at the time. I'd already gone on the show on Shark Tank, and I couldn't wait to tell everyone we'd done a deal with Mark Cuban. He's honestly my favorite shark. I think he's the big shark of the mix. I'm a big fan of Lori's and Damon's and even Mr. Wonderful. But really, and by the way, Mr. Wonderful was very funny, even though he was making fun of all of us fellow vegans. There was some hope that he left, I think, in his some of his comments on the show, which was that he goes vegan on Tuesday. So it's not a meatless Monday, it's a meatless Tuesday for Mr. Wonderful. But yeah, it's been amazing. So we went on the show. I pitched. By the way, it's all live, so I had no idea what was going to happen. We went in there to talk about the future of food for our pets, making better pet food products. Our mission, Wild Earth's mission, is to remove the animals from pet food and show people that dogs can be not just survive but thrive on a plant-based with fungi diet. And so that was really the mission. That was a huge opportunity to talk to America in general. And so that was something that we were that I was on a mission to do, and my entire team supported us getting on there. So it was super intense. I don't know if that came through, Jane.
Oh, totally. I want to show a picture of you. There you are on Shark Tank delivering your message, and there are the sharks grilling you and asking you tough questions and laughing at you. But then ultimately, there's Mark Cuban on the left. I mean, this guy is obviously globally famous. He invested $550,000 into your company. What do you think it was about your pitch? And how did you prepare for your pitch that got him on board, Mark Cuban?
Yes. So preparing was actually really tough. So I actually worked a lot with my fellow co-founder, Chief Marketing Officer Florin Radke. He's got a lot of experience, a lot more experience than I do in terms of preparing for shows and just getting prepared. One big thing that I realized was that I was not an actor, right? Like I realized, like, memorizing those lines, how hard it is. You know how when you walk on stage and you see "Hello Sharks, my name is da da da." I'm not an actor, so Jane, I have a lot more appreciation for you being in front of the screen for so many years. It doesn't come naturally to me.
Listen, here's the thing. I really admire, that you went on Shark Tank, okay? Because there are companies that have passed up on the opportunity, not smart. And the second thing is that you were charismatic, you were organized, you had a dog with you, okay? And you also managed to convince the actual sharks to taste your vegan dog food. Tell me about that, because did they really taste it?
They did. That was kind of wild. I was kind of like, oh, let me hand out the dog treats. I was like, look, it's dog food, but it is vegan. And they were like, oh, okay. And they just started eating it. And I was like, okay. And so I think 3 of the sharks, I can't remember exactly which ones, but 3 of them actually ate Wild Earth treats. And so we actually had the treats and the food that we're developing. So the food's coming soon, towards the end of the summer. But we had basically everything there. It's kind of wild to see the sharks eating our treats. So I think Matt Higgins, the guest shark, started that off, and all the other sharks started to do it afterwards.
So Paige Parsons Rose says, thank you for saving animals by not feeding them to our companion animals. Did that message get through that, hey, if you love animals, feeding animals to your animals is very counterproductive and unnecessarily cruel?
It was interesting. So I think it didn't really, it wasn't something that the sharks were really, I wanted to stay away from going into like these deep dive conversations, because the sharks, when you're talking with them, they're all talking over each other. They're arguing with you about various different things. I tried to make it clear that this was animal free and it was healthy for pets. Mr. Wonderful kept saying, well, it's vegan this, vegan that. You're taking away the dog's meat. It's not good for the dog. He was making a lot of jokes, but ultimately he didn't seem to have any issue with not feeding animals meat, right? So as long as they had protein, that was really the main message that I wanted to get across, not just to the sharks, but to America as well. I mean, that night, 3.7 million people watched me pitch the sharks, which is huge. And I was able to deliver a message around sustainable protein, around not feeding animals to our animals. If you're a real animal lover, you don't feed animals to your animals if you don't have to. And so that was really the main aim of the message. I don't think it fully came through, but I think at least we were able to kind of plant the seed.
If you see me looking down for a second, it's because I'm sharing this video, and I urge you to share this video as well, because there are so many people who consider themselves animal lovers who are still feeding, almost exclusively dead animals to their animals. It's not good for the animals. Yes. And it's also horrible for the animals who are tortured and killed for that food. Now, Wild Earth, we have a question already. My dog is diabetic, says someone. Can I feed Wild Earth to my diabetic dog?
I think that really depends on, that is a question for a veterinarian, but I'll do a short answer. If you're able to feed normal foods to your dog, then this shouldn't be any different to that. Obviously, diabetic dogs have diabetes, so you have to be really careful with their blood sugar. So I recommend whatever you do, make sure you monitor their blood glucose levels, and just treat Wild Earth as a normal food. I wish it was a superfood that we could feed to even diabetic dogs. We are looking into that. We know that we have a lot of dogs who have diabetes. Actually, our chief veterinarian, Dr. Ernie Ward, is actually one of his main projects over the last decade has been looking at obese dogs and helping pet parents help their pets lose weight before they enter into diabetes. This is actually a huge problem. About 50% of our dogs in the US are actually obese. And obviously that increases their risk factors for type 2 diabetes. So for diabetes. So I wish I had a better response, not yet, but we are looking at it.
Okay, and Stacey Mindful says, hello from Pennsylvania. I'm a huge fan of Wild Earth. Thank you for not using meat. Why is it my dogs, and I would have probably chaos here if I whipped out the Wild Earth because they love them. It's a very meaty texture. Okay, the thing about this is that I have tried to serve my dogs some vegan treats, and I'm not putting any other products down because I know, like my friend Danny has a dog who will eat paper, anything.
Yeah,
but my dogs are very spoiled and finicky, but they think there's a very meaty texture to this product that kind of gets them thinking it is meat. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so basically that's one of the reasons why we used fungi and we used koji, because koji has that umami, that savory meat-like taste. A lot of us like that. That's one of the reasons why when we eat portobello mushrooms, they taste kind of meat-like. And so that's really why we used fungi in our product. Turns out that we love umami, that savory taste, in like miso soup and various other things, portobello mushrooms. We have that umami flavor through the koji in Wild Earth, and our dogs love it too. So that umami savory taste, they love it too. And so that's really, I would say, the secret sauce in Wild Earth. We have a lot of other good things, but our main emphasis at Wild Earth is focusing on making better plant-based products that can outcompete conventional pet food products, right? So no mystery meats because there's no meat, right? That's the starting point.
Yeah.
And from there we actually bring a lot of science into the product to actually improve the nutrition. So we don't just stop at plant-based. We go beyond that. We say, okay, if you're comparing us to the top pet food brands out there that are meat-based pet food products. How do we outcompete them? How do we have more protein? How do we have better products? How do we have beta-glycans, which are good for the immune system? How do we have prebiotics like we do in the treats to help with digestion? You know, very increasing the amount of good bacteria. These types of things are the things that we're actually putting into our products as we make them.
So Brandon asks a very related question. Is there any data on your food showing that it is not just meeting the minimum legal requirements, but is actually formulated to provide optimal nutrition? I'm looking for more nutritious alternatives to the current options. So
Brandon, great question. So we are a science-based company. We think that nutrition science is actually very, very poorly applied to dog food, to some of the most important beings in our lives. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase the amount of science that we add to the foods that we make and to the treats that we make. Right now, we have some fairly minimal data that we're starting to. We haven't published this yet, but we do have some data around the microbiome and dogs with our treats, that it improves the diversity of good bacteria in the gut. So we haven't started publishing that because they're small numbers, but our aim is to do more and more of that. And so, as we start to make at least a product that meets the minimum standards for nutritional sufficiency, AFCO standards, we will meet or exceed them on almost every category. That's guaranteed. And we're looking at what does exceed mean. So what other good things can we put on there to support immune system health, to support digestion, to support obviously skin and coat, these types of things. Are there things we can remove that reduce the risk of allergy? Those types of things.
So many questions coming in. Sarah Segal wants to know, can you debunk the wolf myth of dogs need dead animals because of wolf ancestry?
Yes, I can. And this is actually one of my favorite questions. So, the wolf myth is exactly a myth. So if you look at most conventional dog food packages, Rico's a beautiful wolf, by the way.
I was pointing out, he doesn't look much like a wolf, does he?
He does not look like much of a wolf. Most dogs, if you, one of my friends basically said, if you put his dog on a field and there was a deer and there was a garbage can, he would run to the garbage can. So it's like he's not trying to kill an animal in the field. But the main way to debunk the myth of dogs are wolves and wolves need meat is actually a really interesting piece of research done by some scientists that was published in Nature magazine. I believe it was in 2015. So Nature is one of the leading scientific publications. What they found was that actually dogs co-evolved alongside us during the agricultural revolution. That's kind of mind-blowing. It means when we were eating corn and wheat and all the other agricultural products, we were giving it to our best friends. And their genes reflect that. So they evolved. I think there are about 10 starch metabolism genes that are different from wolves in dogs, which basically means they co-evolved on an agricultural diet like we did.
Yeah, because they were also eating our scraps, and they were following us and eating our scraps. And our scraps, contrary to this whole myth of paleo man eating meat, they actually found an old paleo, one of the oldest paleo skeletons very recently. And guess what? They didn't have floss during those times. And they found that between the teeth of this paleo man was plants, vegetables, not meat. Yeah. Now, Lori Ferreira wants to know, will your food be available in pet stores in New Jersey, or do we have to order online? I see it's available in California. So tell us how people want to order this.
Yes. So hi, Lori. Thank you very much. So there's two steps. So one, we actually are available in over 60 stores for our treats. Nationwide. I believe we do have a couple of stores in New Jersey. If we're not in your store, we're happy to if you could connect us with the person who owns the store, we're happy to supply the independent pet food chains. And then in addition, we do have an online subscription. So we're really focusing on the subscription in terms of subscription treats, getting ready for the food. And when the food is ready, we for sure want retailers in New Jersey. We know that it's a huge market for us. And so we are not yet out with our dog food. We do have our treats out there. Our treats are nationwide. That's actually something that Mark Cuban has really helped us with, is rolling out our nationwide strategy and getting into stores.
Now, Michael Bone, we always have somebody who's provocative, and we like that. Michael Bone says, I want to not disagree. Help. Why do dogs like to sprint after, chase things, hunt, scent, hounds, etc.?
Yeah, I mean those are actually behaviors that we've bred into dogs. So, Michael, it's a great question. We don't fully understand everything about the mind, not even the human mind, let alone the canine, the dog mind. But if you look at like different breeds of dogs do different things. Like if you look at, I'm a big fan of Huskies. Huskies have a strong prey instinct, right? They have a strong prey drive. They go after like little rabbits, sometimes little dogs, right? It's not, I don't think that, you know, if they understood what they were doing, they would do it. But I mean, they're just driven in certain ways. Different dogs have different traits. And so we, humanity, have bred many different types of dogs for different tasks. And so sometimes we see that in what they do. We did used to use them for hunting, some of them, it's true.
So Lori Ferrero says, great, thank you. I will order treats and who my vet get approval for my diabetic dog. And remember, vets, just like medical doctors, don't have a lot of training in nutrition. And they have a tendency to want to prescribe just meat, meat, meat. I actually have taken this little guy who had an allergic reaction to 4 different vets and got 4 different diagnoses. And he is fine now, and he is plant-based. Now, one question we have here, which I thought was very interesting, can dogs absorb plant protein as well as animal protein?
Excellent question. So this is actually kind of a complicated question. So I'll start with the simple answer and then I'll move into the more complicated answer. So if it's the same digestibility of a protein, then yes. This highlights one of the areas that is not often talked about, but that we at Wild Earth, we are a 100% vegan company, right? So everything we do is vegan. There's some controversy about cultured meat and various other things. We'll put that to the side. But you know, our aim is to remove animals from factory farming, from use in our foods. But the digestibility of a food is actually a measurement. So typically for dog food, what they do is they actually, they use beagles in colonies, in labs. They push food down their throat in a little bag, and then they pull it up at timed intervals to see how it's digested. It's a horrible thing. We don't do that at Wild Earth. We actually use a cruelty-free in vitro testing, so like a lab testing, but there's no animals used, to look at a simulated stomach, basically, and look at digestion. So we've looked at digestive studies. If the protein has a similar digestibility, whether it's animal, plant, or fungi, then it's equally as digestible. One of the main issues around animal-based proteins and digestibility is that often we use less digestible parts of the animal. We, meaning the industry, not us. Wild Earth doesn't do that, but the industry uses less digestible parts of the animal. So I'm sure you've heard like a chicken meal, that could be anything. And so sometimes that could be like chicken beaks that have been digested chemically with enzymes. It's really gross. And those are less digestible. So that's a little bit of a short and long story. The main focus for us at Wild Earth is we want to make a highly digestible, clean protein that is plant-based or fungi-based, right? So that is our focus, and we want to outcompete conventional dog food. So we think that there's a great way to do that. Our treats actually have excellent digestibility. It's actually a scale thing. You know, there's actually a little bit more information. We've got a white paper as well. If you're the you know, the type of person that loves to read and dig deep, we've actually got a scientific white paper, and we'll be having more of those out as we release more products. So
getting back to Shark Tank, and I was just so blown away by your amazing performance on Shark Tank. And there is the actual show with all the sharks listening to you. Again, Mark Cuban, who's the one on the left, I think we all know him, he ended up investing more than $500,000, $550,000 into your product. I want to ask you, what were you feeling at the moment that you found out Mark Cuban, the most famous of the sharks, jumped on board with you?
So, I mean, right at that moment, I was on stage, right? What they do is you don't get any retakes on the show. So Shark Tank, you walk through those big doors, you do your pitch, whatever happens, happens, they film it. If you fall on your face, they'll film you falling on your face, getting back up. And they purposely tell you, we will not do any retakes. And so basically I was like, okay, we went through this. It was pretty grueling, actually. The sharks were just talking over each other. Mr. Wonderful was making fun of vegans, making fun of Wild Earth products. He was very funny. I have to give it to him. He was very funny, talking about how his dog would get Birkenstocks and tie-dye shirts after eating this product. So, he was really funny. And so, you know, right at the end, all the sharks started to go out, and I was like, okay, you know what? At least I was here. I didn't crack. I think I respectably defended why we're making this product. It's animal free and vegan, and that's it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to leave without a deal for my team. My team will be disappointed, but at least I was here. I represented. And then right at the end, and for those of you that are fans of Shark Tank, Mark actually tends to do this, although when you're there in the moment, you don't expect it. He waits until right at the last minute, and then he tries to strike a deal. When everyone is out, that's how he gets the best deal, right?
Oh,
and so he that's his strategy. And so I was like, okay, I was about to take a bow. I was ready to Mark say, I'm out. And then he just said, I'll make you an offer. And I was like, huh. It just kind of blew my mind. And it probably shows that on the show if you've seen the show. I was there. I was like standing there for a second going, okay. And then he made an offer, very aggressive offer. But it was an offer. And so, I went on to Shark Tank for a reason. I wanted to work with one of the sharks. It would have been a dream to work with Mark, but I just didn't know if that would happen. And so when he made us an offer, made me an offer and made us an offer as a team, I decided to take it no matter what I had to do to get him to work with us. And so we did the deal. That was amazing. By the way, that was the best hug I've ever had. So Mark came down, we had a big hug, and I was like, wow, that was mind blowing. And then that was it.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, a lot of people are asking, where can I get these Wild Earth dog treats? We'll put up the link, obviously. Perfect. I have a subscription, and they show up. Honestly, it's hard to keep them in stock. I was scrambling around finding one last bag before the show because they eat them so fast. I was like, oh, my God, am I even going to have a bag left to show as we interview you? They love them. Now, you have different flavors. Tell us how we can order them and the different flavors.
So we love everyone's support. So we really appreciate you supporting our mission as well. We now have a subscription as well. It just works a lot better for us and for our pet parents. We had a lot of interest from pet parents who actually had multiple dogs, and they thought it was kind of expensive. And so what we're able to do is we're able to make a package of 3. So we have a 3-pack. You buy 2, get 1 free. And that also helps with shipping and various other things. We actually have 3 different flavors. So we have peanut butter, which is right here. So Jane will make sure you get these. Peanut butter. We have banana and cinnamon, also a big favorite. And then we actually have, this is actually a favorite, but a surprising favorite. We have strawberry and beet. So this one's kind of a funky favorite. We have 3-packs. So right now we have subscriptions for 3-packs. You can still buy an individual treat bag if you just want to try it out. You just have to dig a little bit more. It's in the bottom link. But we love everyone's support. And Jane, thank you so much for subscribing. This is just the beginning of our mission to really transform food for our pets and really bring cruelty-free food for pets global. So we want to start in the US, and our mission is no more animals killed to feed other animals. That is our mission.
Now, let me say a couple of things. One, just tell us the link. I'm going to put it up as soon as we're done.
So it's wildearth.com. So
wildearth.com. Nothing could be simpler. Wildearth.com.
Yes.
Now, one of the things here, this woman, and I can relate to this because there's so many vets, I've had it myself, who say your dog has to eat meat, just like medical doctors who incorrectly tell human patients you have to eat meat because doctors don't get a lot of training in nutrition. And in fact, when humans go to the doctor with high cholesterol, instead of saying, hey, there's only cholesterol in animals, there's no cholesterol in plant-based products because plants don't produce cholesterol, why don't you just go plant-based, get rid of the meat and dairy? What they do is say, here's a pill. Here's a pill for your cholesterol. It's the same thing. So this woman, Susan Soledad, I think I pronounced it right. My holistic vet said dogs cannot digest cellulose from veggies. So he suggested steaming them for a minute or 2 to break them down so it's digestible.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same way that we cook food, right? It's not a bad idea. All of our products are baked, so it's more digestible. It's like heating things in an oven or in the stove. It doesn't hurt. But one really important thing that you said, Susan, and I want to highlight what Jane is saying. Vets, like doctors, don't get that much nutrition training. It's actually, it's kind of sad that they only get a couple of days of training on one of the most important things. Let food be thy medicine, right? Food is our medicine. And we know as vegans, we know that if you eat a plant-based diet, you're actually less likely to have a whole bunch of issues related to diet and lifestyle. And so, you know, one of the interesting things as well is that nutrition science is constantly evolving. So you mentioned cellulose. Susan mentioned cellulose. We've now found out that actually the cellulose that we don't digest and that our dogs don't digest, it turns out that that's not food for us. That's food for the good bacteria in our gut. That's why plant-based fibers are actually so good for digestion. You know, we often talk about it's good for digestion. It's because it's food for the bacteria. It's kind of mind-blowing, but we've only just recently figured that out. And that's what prebiotic fibers actually are. They are cellulosic material from plants, fibers from plants.
You are a very educated guy. I was looking up a little bit about you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you went to Cambridge?
I did. I actually had the lowest grades of anyone in my class for that master's degree, but they let me in because I had entrepreneurial ambitions. I was like, look, I really want to build something great.
Well, I have to ask you a couple of quick questions. I know you're a very busy man, so thank you for taking the time. I want to know when the dog food is coming out because I'm getting the treats and the dogs love them. And when is the dog food, the kibble, coming out? So
by the end of this, we already have our dog food. We're currently producing it at the moment. We're doing some cruelty-free feeding studies at the moment. So we're actually making sure the dogs like the flavor, that it doesn't upset their tummy or anything like that. So by the end of the summer, we'll be launching our food.
Well, Ryan, I just want to say I am so blown away. You know, I talked to you, what was it, almost a year ago, I guess, and I was so impressed by everything you were doing. I was like, this guy is on top of it. This guy has not only the compassion, but the business gene, the business sense, which we vegans need. I have to say, I don't have it. That's not my forte. But I just am so proud of everything you've done. I urge everyone to order these Wild Earth treats. I can tell you right now, my dogs gobble them up, and they literally, I think they have that meaty texture that dogs do crave without other animals having to be killed. And so this little guy here says, I endorse Wild Earth. So,
yay, big kiss to Rico from me.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And please keep us posted because I know you're doing so much. We'd love to have you back when your kibble comes out.
Thank you, Jane. Big hug and thank you for everything.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.